To cope, the U.S. is monitoring scores of radicals and has set up stings to combat the homegrown threat. But the increasing number of stings is not without controversy.
You know, the critics say that the stings that the FBI has been doing basically amount to entrapment.
We're going to do whatever it is that we have to do in order to protect the American people.
Basically amount to entrapment.
We're going to do whatever it is that we have to do in order to protect the American people.
Basically amount to entrapment.
We're going to do whatever it is that we have to do in order to protect the American people. Options are always given all along the way for them to say, you know what, I've changed my mind. I don't want to do this. And up to now, everyone has said, everyone that we've charged has said, no, I want to go forward. And all of those actions were designed to kill Americans.
Schaeffer finally just says, Bill, look, I've never been in a fight in my life. I've never even punched someone in the nose, and I don't want to start now. And then Fulton says, what do you want me to do, Schaeffer? You want me to call it off? And Schaeffer says, yeah, call it off. And
all right, this is Rudy. It's October the 21st of 2016. Many of you guys know that I rode off to the federal courthouse in Alaska, and I filled out the forms and I sent the money off that's required to get the audio recordings of the actual trial that was held in 2012. All right, and what you're about to hear is Mike Anderson's testimony. Mike Anderson was a friend of Schaeffer. The prosecution brought in Mike Anderson, and you're going to hear the testimony of Mike Anderson as he testified that day that ultimately ended in a false conviction of Schaeffer Cox. And you guys need to have the context, because Mike Anderson is going to talk about plans. He's going to talk about how Schaeffer called off the plans, but if you don't understand the full context, you could derive a false conclusion by listening to Mike Anderson's testimony that it was Schaeffer's idea to come up with this plan to arrest judges. But I already put out a previous video, and remember I told you guys about the Pike's Landing incident and the Blondie's incident. So the Blondie's incident, which is the Far North Tactical grand opening where you have Aaron Bennett and Bill Fulton, and you have this group of guys, Maria, Patricia was there, her husband was there, Les Zerby was there, there were some other gentlemen there. That was the grand opening day, and they were trying to get Schaeffer to come in and talk about the plan. Well, the night before, Aaron Bennett and Bill Fulton had been in a drunken stupor trying to fill Schaeffer's head with what he should do regarding arresting judges and the violent plans that Schaeffer should do, and he should be the leader because they were attacking Schaeffer's children through OCS, Office of Children's Services. So I wrote to Schaeffer, and I asked him to give me context for Mike Anderson's testimony. Now I'm going to read to you exactly what Schaeffer wrote back to me, and then I'm going to play you Mike Anderson's testimony. Now, as you're listening to this, I want you guys to keep in mind, do you think it's right that the FBI is provoking and prodding and going after this young man, Schaeffer Cox, in the way that they're doing, trying to set him up and provoke him to go on violent arresting judges and killing judges and trying judges and things like that? So think about how evil the government is in this case, and then listen to the testimony of Mike Anderson. Before we listen to the testimony of Mike Anderson, let's let Schaeffer Cox give us context. Rudy, the context is this. Bill Fulton was asking what my plan was. I told him my plan was to work with my attorney, Robert John, to try to clear up the OCS mess, Office of Children's Services. They were going after Schaeffer's young son, Seth, and to go public with everything so any corruption would be exposed and discouraged, which is exactly what I did. Bill Fulton and Aaron Bennett then said that I was stupid and that what I had in mind would never work. They said we needed to go take out judges and stand up and fight. Every time I would start to tell them that that was not a good idea, they would bully and belittle me and shout me down. They wanted me to come up with a plan and then lead the attack. I still thought it was not only impossible, but that it was totally stupid too. When I went into a generalized plan, as Anderson said, it was only to show the nearsighted impracticality of such an idiotic endeavor. After everything I said, I would say, and then what? And what then? Have any of you thought this through to where it ends? As if to point out that we'd all be dead and have achieved nothing. I was repeating and condemning their suggestions. I was not making suggestions of my own. It went like this. Okay, Bill and Aaron, say we go kill a bunch of people. Say we go put people on trial. Say we go round people up and stuff them in a Connex or something. And then what? What then? We can't do anything like this. We'll all be killed, and it would make everything a million times worse for everyone, especially us. I'd never been in a fight in my life. I'd never even punched someone in the nose, and I don't want to start now. Get this out of your head, okay? It won't work. Bill and Aaron were trying to convince me that I was the only one who stood against violence and that I was wrong. So when Les Zerby came to my defense and stood by me and said no way to their proposed foolish violence, Bill Fulton attacked Les with a hunting knife. That was the last time I ever saw Bill Fulton or Aaron Bennett. To corroborate the account I have just given you, listen to the audio recordings from just before Olson and Vernon went down to this February 2011 militia conference in Anchorage. Before they left, they came by my house and I told them to stay away from Fulton and Bennett. I then explained the Blondies event to them and how I was against violence, and it was Fulton and Bennett belligerently pushing it. I explained how Fulton had claimed that I had pitched the idea of violence at Pike's the night before. Let me read that again. I explained how Fulton had claimed that I had pitched the idea of violence at Pike's the night before, but that was not true. I said, here's what I think must have happened. Les, Jeremy, and I do not remember anything even remotely close to what Fulton was saying we said at Pike's. I think Fulton was so drunk he couldn't remember what happened or what was said at Pike's. Then he goes to Blondie's the next day all hungover and starts yucking it up with his buddy Aaron Bennett, and those two go walk around the block and get each other all riled up about going and starting a war, and they want to look tough in front of each other and talk big. But then in the afternoon, as they both start to sober up, they realize how stupid it is and that it's going to mean never seeing their girlfriends again, and they get cold feet from their own stupid plans. But they don't want to look like wimps by backing out. So they drag me down there knowing I will say no and calm the whole thing down. That way I could take the public beating and get blamed for being the wimp who put a halt to it. And so they wouldn't have to admit they had a foolish idea. This quote is from my memory, but the audio of it will be from about February the 1st of 2011. All right, so you got the context. Not only that, but I need to share with you. Remember, you had Pike's Landing the night before when Fulton was in a drunken stupor and Fulton was saying Schaeffer was coming up with all these plans to arrest judges, which now we know it was Fulton that came up with those plans. But keep in mind, Pike's Landing was recorded by Fulton. It was absolutely recorded, right? Fulton brought that recording to the FBI. Guess what the FBI said? They told Fulton to go destroy the recording. Do you understand? That's on the record. That's not disputed. So the supposed time where they had the smoking gun that they say Schaeffer came up with plan to arrest judges, they told their main FBI informant, Bill Fulton, oh, go destroy that recording. It wasn't done legally and we can't use that in court. That's a crock of crap. They told him to destroy the recording because it would have cleared Schaeffer of all wrongdoing. And then keep in mind, Mike Anderson comes in the next day. He don't know nothing about Pike's Landing, right? And all of a sudden, all he does is he hears Schaeffer talking about this generalized plan of arresting judges, and he don't know it was provoked by Bill Fulton the night before in a drunken stupor, and it was recorded, and the FBI told Fulton to throw the recording away. And so when you listen to this testimony that I'm about to play from Mike Anderson, keep all this in mind. I hope you followed what I said, because a man's life is hanging in the balance. I hope you can understand how evil the prosecutors are, how they manipulated the evidence by destroying evidence, and how they've manipulated behavior with provocations from paid government informants. I hope you understand what's going on. Here's the recording, the actual audio from the trial that took place in 2012, and Mike Anderson's actual testimony. Listen very carefully when Mike Anderson says, Schaeffer said to call it all off. And that should have cleared Schaeffer that day, and they should have just ended the trial right there.
To set up their hot dog stand for a fundraiser, and I was asked to assist with that.
And you did that?
I did that. Uh-huh.
So who was in attendance at this gathering?
Well, let's see, Bennett, of course, was there, and his employees. Bill Fulton was there, and the customers.
Who's Bill Fulton?
This is the only time I've met him. I know he ran the gun store. I run the gun store down here. He was a friend of Aaron Bennett's. And other than that, I don't know much about him.
You ever been to Mr. Fulton's shop in Anchorage?
No, I've never been there.
You said it was a gun store. Do you know it's a gun store?
Well, I don't know that for a fact. That's just what I'm told.
Okay.
A tactical store, gun store.
Uh-huh. But you don't know if he sells guns or not, do you?
I guess I can't say I do. I've never been there.
So Mr. Fulton shows up?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Please tell the jury what kind of personality Mr. Fulton is that you
him,
observed on that occasion.
I found him to be extremely gruff, a fat drunkard, rude, extremely violent.
And you have some particulars about the violent piece you want to share with the jury in terms of this meeting?
Yeah.
How did he, I'm sorry to interrupt you, sir. How did he get there? What was his point of being there?
He was invited there by Aaron Bennett to sell some of his goods during the grand opening.
Did he bring some goods up to sell?
Yeah, he had military packs and some military propylene underwear, things like that.
Okay.
I don't know if he had guns there or not, but
Right. So that's his purpose for being at that meeting.
that was what I understood.
Mm-hmm. And so something happened during the day with respect to Mr. Fulton and others?
Yeah, Fulton had invited us to get together that evening. Said that Schaeffer had some idea or some plan that he wanted to tell us about.
Let me stop you there. How did you know that Mr. Cox had a plan he wanted to tell you about?
Well, that's what we were told. We were told to come to the meeting and hear Schaeffer's plan, basically. So I was already there, so I figured I'd go. And,
So it's you, Bennett, Fulton, and some others?
Yes.
And Mr. Cox ever show up?
Yeah, he was late. We gathered there about 30 minutes, maybe 20, 30 minutes into it. Schaeffer still hadn't shown up. And it was either Bill Fulton who called, or Bill Fulton asked Aaron Bennett to call. I don't remember which anymore. But Bill Fulton wanted to get Schaeffer down there, so they called. Schaeffer was out doing some errands, and he said, "Schaeffer, get down here. We're all waiting for you." And then Les Zerby showed up first, who was at the time Schaeffer's second in command, I believe. Schaeffer finally comes in with his 2-year-old boy.
Let me stop you there. We'll get back on track in a second.
Okay.
Is this about the same time frame that Mr. Cox is having issues with the state court system?
Yes.
Okay. So he's got his son with him. He shows up, and so take it from there.
Okay. Anyway, he comes in. He acts a little confused as to why he's there. And Fulton asked him, what's the plan that we're here to hear about. Schaeffer talks for a while about how he's being railroaded in the court system and his political ideas, and everyone's getting kind of restless. They just want to know why they're there. And Fulton prods him.
How does he do that?
Schaeffer, tell us why you're here, and tell us why we're here. And so Schaeffer talks a little bit about filing some more paperwork in the court system, and it's not quite what Bill Fulton wanted to hear. And Fulton says, "No, not that. What we talked about." I'm doing this the best as I can remember it. It's been a while.
So is there Mr. Fulton says to Mr. Cox about what?
He wants to know what the plan is that they talked about. And so Schaeffer went into this generalized idea of, well, we're going to arrest some judges, and we'll arrest judges and put them on trial before the Thursday hearing. This was on a Sunday.
Trial in front of what? Was he specific?
No, I didn't go into that. Not that I remember. Anyway, this was on a Sunday, and his court hearing for his OCS case, I believe, was supposed to be on a Thursday. And I was just finding this out that night when I was there hearing him. And so the idea was arrest some judges, put them on trial before the hearing. And Bill Fulton wanted to hear what the actual plan was. How are you going to do this?
In other words, arrest the judges?
Yeah. And so that was, well, we could bury some connexes on Monday, and then we could arrest them on Tuesday and put them on trial Wednesday. It's kind of a general thing. Bill Fulton wants to know, what's the plan? How are we going to do this? And then all of a sudden Les Zerbe pipes up and he says, there's no plan. We don't have a plan to do this. And Bill Fulton at that point, my memory's a little vague on it. I don't remember if he actually pulled out a knife or not. My memory's like 50% on that. I want to say he did, but I can't say it firmly. What I distinctly remember is him kind of lunging toward Les Zerbe and saying, "No plan? What do you mean you have no plan? You're supposed to have a plan. You fucking piece of shit, I'm going to slit your throat. I'm going to kill you, Les." And he kept going on and on and on. And Les Zerbe and Schaeffer are very calm. Finally, things calmed down a little bit after several minutes of this nonsense. And Schaeffer says, we just don't have a plan. We don't have logistics for this. We can't do it. What do you mean we don't have logistics, Schaeffer? I spent $30,000 bringing men and equipment up here. You want me to send them all back? And Bill Fulton, Bill Fulton's continuing with this. Schaeffer finally just says, Bill, look, I've never been in a fight in my life. I've never even punched someone in the nose, and I don't want to start now. And then Fulton says, what do you want me to do, Schaeffer? You want me to call it off? And Schaeffer says, yeah, call it off. And so it's from that point on, it cooled down. It looked like Schaeffer had convinced Fulton to call it off.
Call what off?
This thing of arresting judges. It never got into an actual worked out plan. It was, the whole thing was really strange.
Okay.
And then finally it ended, went out to the parking lot. We were getting ready to go home, and Bill Fulton said he was going to go to a bar, get drunk, and beat up some soldiers. And that was the end of it.
And that was your only exposure to Mr. Fulton?
Yeah, thank God. So, that's the last time I ever saw him.
My plan is to hide, to avoid, but if I get busted, if I get captured, I'm not going to do a Rambo, I'm going to do a Gandhi. If I get captured, I'm not going to do a Rambo, I'm going to do a Gandhi. If I get captured, I'm not going to do a Rambo, I'm going to do a Gandhi.